This video is a follow-on from the previous 3 videos in this tkinter playlist, and I recommend that you make sure you've watched those 3 first. In the previous video we looked at this computer program, and you can see we have a class, and on this line we create an instance of that class. Now what will happen when we run this program is we will have a canvas on which we can draw lines. Now I'm going to amend this program by adding another line after this line here, and this other line is going to create another instance of the class. So let's have a look at that computer program, and you can see it here. And if you look in this area, what you can see is I've now added this additional line, and I'm going to highlight this here. As you can see, I've shown the lines a little bit bigger. And if we look at this one, that's the one we had in the program we looked at right at the beginning of this video, and this is the new line that I've added. Everything else associated with this program hasn't changed. What we can see with this line is I'm making the colour yellow, whereas up here you can see it was white. I'm also making the column equal 1, whereas here the column was equal to 0. Now if I move these 2 lines out of the road and we have a look at what we get when we run the program, we get this. And this is an instance of the class, and this is an instance of the class. This instance you can see has the white background because that's what I set it to here, and this instance has the yellow background because that's what I set it to here. This is a canvas and this is a canvas, and they are the canvases that were defined in the class. If you look at this one, you can see it's at row 0, column 0, which is what I set here, whereas this one is at row 0, column 1. So I have now got 2 instances of the class, and my second instance was simply created using this line here. So let's consider the runtime of the program we're considering, and you can see I've got a white region and a yellow region. Now each of those are instances of the class that I've defined in the program. If I come to here and click, as you can see, what I'm managing to do is to create an application that allows me to draw lines, and you've seen this before in the previous videos. I can simply make a stick person quite easily, whereas if I come over to here I can do exactly the same thing. I'm making another stick person here, and you can see they have exactly the same functionality. The difference is this one's got a white background and this one here has got a yellow background. Now the key is I've defined the class, and when I want an instance of that class I can do so with 1 line of code. Now that shows the power, if you like, of object-oriented programming. You produce a class, and when you want an instance of that class, as shown by these 2 instances, you can end up with an application here and another application here, and they work completely independently of each other. When you run the computer program, the first thing you'll see is this. You'll see an instance of the class with the white background, and you'll see the instance of the class that I've set to the yellow background. Now when an instance is created of a class, the first thing to execute will be the initialization routine. Now I'm going to show that here, and you can see that it will be setting up the canvas, it'll be positioning the canvas, and it'll be binding this event to this method. And of course when you click on the left mouse button, this method will execute. But it also declares these. Now as I've only got 1 class but I've got 2 instances, aren't these possibly going to clash in some way? Well, the answer is no, they won't. And the reason for that, if you remember, every instance you create of a class passes to here the ID of that instance. So although it would appear that these are going to be shared with the instances you've created, and in this case we've created 2 instances, this self will identify the instance that has this variable. So what we can say quite legitimately, if we consider both instances, what they're going to have is the following. You see, one of the instances is going to have these 5 data attributes, which I'm showing schematically here, and the other one likewise will have these. Now, if you look at this name and this name here, they look identical. Now, that may confuse us as human beings, but Python won't get confused by this, because the white instance, this self, will be a different value in terms of identifying the object than this self here. And if you use C Python, what you're effectively passing in is an ID, and that will be the address of where the object is stored in memory. So although to us these two look the same, they're not as far as Python is concerned. This one will belong to the white background object I created, and this one will belong to the yellow background object I created, where the object is the instance of the class that we're looking at in this computer program. So if I remove this initialization routine, this method, from the slide, what we can see here, we have an instance of the class, and that instance has these data attributes, and this instance here, which you can see has got the yellow background, has these, and these are different to these, although they look like the same spelling, if you like. This one is self.click_number, this one has got exactly the same name, because the self identifies the instance. So this self will identify this instance of the class, and this self will identify this instance of the class. So if I just turn to this one here, that's self.y2, and that belongs to this instance, and this is self.y2, which belongs to this instance, because each instance gets a different value for the self. Let's now consider the runtime schematically, and here you can see the runtime that I've made bigger just for the purpose of this slide, and this is an instance and this is an instance here. Now schematically it's useful, I think, to show the instances in a circular diagram. So if I was to create this instance here and we have a look at what that would look like schematically, we can think of it as being this, and it will be bound to this name because this is the name I used in the computer program, which I'll refer to later. Now this instance, this object, will have associated with it all of the data attributes, all of the data fields that we saw when we looked at the computer program. So I like to show those in the center, and you can see we have click number, x1, y1, x2, y2. What else does this object have? Well, it's going to have the method, the draw line method, and I'm going to show that there. And you can see the draw line method is taken in the event. Of course, when I now come on to this instance of the class, the same thing will apply schematically. If I think about what I would like to represent the object as, I would represent it with this shape again, and of course this will be bound to a name, and on this occasion the name is my _draw _line 2, so we can see I have another object here, and of course this object is based on the class, consequently it'll have the same fields, the same data attributes, and naturally it's going to have the same method, as you can see here. So when we run the program, you can see the white and the yellow regions are the actual objects, but schematically, to represent what goes on under the hood, you see we have an object that has these data fields and these methods that were defined in the class. But these attributes here, these fields, are different to these fields. These 5 fields belong to this object, and these 5 fields belong to this object. That way, when I decide to draw a line in this area, the x1, the y1 through to the y2 will hold numbers, and these will also hold numbers when I decide to draw in the yellow area, and they don't get muddled up with each other. Now, the reason that the individual instances are able to have their own copy of the data fields that were defined in the class is because Python will use, when you're programming in the object-oriented paradigm, it'll use self. And self is fundamental to understanding object-oriented programming, and I've done separate videos on this earlier in the playlist on Python, and I strongly recommend, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not quite sure what self is doing, you really must go and look up those videos to get a handle on why self is so important in object-oriented coding. So I'm just going to pick on this one here, x1. And if I consider that as belonging to this object, I can come over here and say that x1 belongs to this object. How? Well, because of this word self here. You see, when you look at the code, which I'm going to make appear now, you can see there we have x1. And in front of it, we've got self. So this here makes sure that when we have an instance of the class, this can belong to the object here that I've just covered up, because the self ID will be passed to here. So this object will know that it has variables within it that belong to it. Whereas if you look at the object here that I've covered up, this name, self.x1, defines the variable that appeared at the core of the schematic diagram I showed here that I've covered up with this program. So although here you can see I've defined in the class 5 variables, and they are the data fields, or they are the data attributes, each instance that I create will have their own copy of these, because the self will hold the ID of each instance. This is the snippet of code that shows us the class that we've been talking about in this video, and you can see we have this method, the initialization method, and we have this method here which will draw the line between the two mouse clicks. If I want an instance of this class, I need to do what you can see here. I use this to bind to the instance, and here you can see the name of the class, and this slot are the parameters that I pass in. Now these parameters will be passed to here, as you can see in the previous video, and what I've done, I've made this white, and I've made the row and the column both 0, as you can see. Now what will happen is when this line executes, we're going to get an instance of the class, and I'm showing that instance here. And you can see it's bound to this name, which is the name that I've got here in code. And if you look inside the object, you can see I've got these 5 variables, which are these 5 variables here, and this is the method, which is the method that you can see appears here. If I move this object out of the way now, what I now want to do is to have a look at this, and on this occasion I'm creating another instance of the class we're considering. But if you have a look at this instance, I've given it this name, it's bound to this name, and if you look here you can see I'm making its background colour yellow, and here I'm changing the column to 1. But what's going to be generated now is this object, and you can see it is bound to this name. It has these data fields, it has this method. Now these two objects are obviously instances of the class we're considering, and they're just my schematic representation of the objects. In reality, when we run the program, we'll see the object's visual representation, as we can see here. There's one object with the white background, there's the other object with the yellow background, and you can see their appropriate positions have been set by the setting of the rows and columns here. Now, if I now reflect on what's under the hood, as I've already covered, we know we're going to have this object, and we know we're going to have this object. And they're kind of identical to each other, except they are independent of each other. They're identical in the sense that they've been based on the same class. But these 5 variables, these data fields, are separate to these. And this separation is achieved because the use of self. So I cannot stress the importance of understanding what self gives us. It allows us to have instances where each instance will contain all of the data attributes, the data fields, and those will be those objects' own copy. And their own copy is possible because of the use of self. And to repeat, self holds the identification of the object. So self.x1, i.e. this one, is different to self.x1 of this one, because in both cases what's stored in self is different, and likewise what is stored in self.x1 here can be different to what's stored in self.x1 here. Before I complete this video, let's consider the method that was declared in the class, the draw_line method. And you can see on my schematic diagrams I've shown it here in this object, and I've showed it here in this object. Now this method knows it belongs to this object and can gain access to these data fields, because if you look at the parameters here, you can see it is passed self, where self is the ID of this object. If you come over here and look at this method that I've shown separate in this object and look at its parameters, you can see that it too has self, which means that when this method is called, it is passed the ID of the instance of the object. Consequently, it knows to work on these data fields. So this method cannot access these because this method does not know the ID of these. It does not know where they are effectively. Likewise, this one cannot see these because it doesn't have the ID of the object in which these are placed. So this method could manipulate the values here or use the values here, and this method could use the values here. The reason being, in both cases, we pass into this parameter the ID of the instance. Who passes that in? Well, Python does this automatically for you. Your responsibility as the programmer is to make sure when you define this method in the class, you make sure you have self here as one of the parameters. And of course, if you go back to the previous video, you'll know the event is there because it is tied to the click event on the left mouse button. So you also have to be responsible for ensuring that there. So again, you can see the importance of understanding self when you're programming in Python, when you're programming in the object-oriented paradigm. Check out the supporting website for these videos. In addition, why not follow me on Twitter, as I issue a tweet every time I upload a new video.